This conference will now be recorded.
I'll say this conference is no longer being recorded, and I think they kind of need to get out of here.
Okay, thank you, Joseph.
Thank you very much for preparing for emergencies. Hope you all have a wonderful evening.
Thanks, Joseph.
Thank you.
Just don't forget to drop the keys in the Dropbox, Gary.
You bet.
Okay,
I want to welcome Steve and Diane,
yes.
our first guests.
Well, let's just call the meeting to order to begin with. And can we all be heard here? Call the meeting to order. And if you'll introduce yourselves, I think it would be helpful to the audience.
You're looking at me because I should start first.
Exactly. First in
My
line,
name is
Dick.
Dick Miller. And I've been on the commission for a couple of months now.
And Gary Burns.
Harry Bryant.
Maury Lacus.
And Carol Lawton, also new. I think Jim Howe is also a commissioner, and he is not here tonight, as I understand. Do we have any additions to the minute?
Two additions. One is to get some kind of a public announcement out relatively soon. We can discuss that. We can do it under new business on the Free Brush Week. And I wanted to show everybody this lovely little thing that I picked up at the Langley's Library. So,
Okay,
those are my additions.
under new business, and we can put it,
Not close enough. Is that better?
we can put that
Is this thing
under
on?
new business. Let's put it right away under new business.
Okay.
These other items may take a while. Okay, and you have minutes before you, if you want to glance at those. Thank you, Commissioner Burns, for doing these creative minutes.
I went to minute school, and that's why they're so sharp.
I could tell.
I'm sorry, what is OIT preparation? On page 2.
I mean, what is it? Oregon Institute of Technology?
Oh, is that what that is? Okay. Well, I move that we accept these minutes for the February, see a date on there, February 22nd meeting.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All those in favor?
I
I
Aye. Okay, minutes approved. Okay, I want to apologize for the process we went through on this. This is my first experience as a chairperson and interacting with the city and with Commissioner Burns. So we went back and forth on getting the dates correct because they were incorrect on the website. So now it's been corrected. And then I think the third revision of the agenda was over the access code for people who want to be online. And so the original code on the agenda was that for the city council, and we had to have a separate one. So the newest agenda should have an access code of 119-729-557. And there are current agendas up at the table there if anybody needs them. Okay, are there any public comments at this time on anything other than the agenda items? I don't know. Do you see anyone online? It doesn't look like it.
I don't think so.
Okay. All right. So for new business, We have a reassignment of officers.
So I can go ahead and explain. Jim stepped aside, and so we're at a point of adopting or getting a new chair.
Gary, can you use first and last names, please?
What's that?
If you have the ability, can you use first and last names? Like Jim is just,
Oh, Jim Howe was the chair, and from the kind of the beginning of the commission, and he stepped aside, and hopefully he'll still be on the commission. And I'll nominate Carol Lawton as
Second.
chair. If we have everybody approve.
I second that.
Aye.
Okay, motion has been approved. And then we have member term limits. Commissioner Burns, you had figured those out.
Yeah, and I didn't bring them with me, but
I have it here.
good.
Let's see. Commissioner Miller, you have 4 years to serve and no less.
I get a pay raise every year, don't I?
I think so.
Right.
And benefits.
And then I have 1 year. Harry Bryant, you have 2 years, a 2-year term before you have to go before the council and be approved again. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Commissioner Burns, you have 3 years. Commissioner Lokas, you have 2 years. And Commissioner Howe has 1 year, and there is an open seat yet, and that will expire in 3 years.
And where does that have to be from?
What did you come up
I
with?
think it has to be somebody in town, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think it
That's what we're
does.
short.
We've got 2 potential candidates here.
am I allowed to Q&A during this or should I just hold them all?
We're pretty casual.
I'm curious.
No, it's,
That's the expected term is 3 years.
yes,
Okay, unless.
barring any other.
Of course.
And not that you couldn't resign or, so it's,
And
we're not going to come after you.
would you like to go through the meeting first and then maybe have questions at the end?
It's up to y'all. I'm unsure of if you're following Roberts or if there's like, if it's an open meeting.
We're going to try and follow Roberts.
I'll shut up and wait.
Okay.
We're following
thank you.
Robert's cousin's rules.
The informal.
As best we can. Thank you. Okay. We had Commissioner Burns and Commissioner Miller and I met, and we came up with both a mission statement and goals and objectives that are recommended. The mission statement, I also included 2 other statements that will give you an idea of what is typical. And typically, they're only a sentence or 2 long. And they get at the heart of what we want to do as an organization. So this is what we came up with: to inform and educate residents of the Port Orford community to prepare and respond to any emergency that may include a wildfire, earthquake, or tsunami, and to provide guidance and support to the City of Port Orford in planning for and responding to such emergencies. How does that sound?
Sounds good. I move that we accept this Emergency Preparedness Commission statement as written.
Okay.
I second that.
Any discussion?
I second it.
Okay, all right.
That passed.
Motion passes.
Goals on objectives.
Goals and objectives. We also came up with, actually, Commissioner Miller came up with a lengthy list of suggestions for goals and objectives, and I kind of moved them into this type of a format. And I think ultimately what we want to try and do on the goals and objectives, because we have a lot to do when you think about it over time, of course, but if each commissioner can take one of these goals and perhaps bring in some other friends or people who might want to work with you on those goals, and then report back as a committee to the commission. How does that sound?
And I think part of what we're doing here is I'll present the mission statement to the council at next month's meeting, and I'll present the goals and objectives, and we'll have a discussion at that meeting and have them buy into our vision,
Mhm.
or maybe they'll have a different vision. I'm not sure how far we're going to be able to go and how much input we're going to get from the community. And so I kind of feel like we're going to have to flow with the goals, because if
Mhm.
I know what it's like to just keep beating my head against a brick wall of something that just isn't going to, there's no movement with,
Right.
and it's better to pivot, I feel. And maybe each time, if we do have to pivot, that we'd go back to the council and say, hey, we just aren't getting any flow in this direction, and then see if the council, because basically we're going by the acceptance of the council of everything that we do. So
Right.
once they say, take it away with the goals, then we can just go ahead and go for whatever it takes to get them. But
Yes, we did discuss prioritizing them too. And I think that might be important because there's a lot to do here. And if we take them step by step, that's probably the best way to, as they say, eat the elephant one bite at a time.
Mhm.
So would you like to prioritize these? How would you like to approach it?
I don't know if I would do that yet. I think we need to get a reaction from the council and see where their interests and priorities lie before we can really,
we could suggest maybe
yeah, I
priorities.
suggest it, but we have no clue at this point how they're going to respond or what they want to do. This kind of puts that problem in their lap, because ultimately they're responsible to make that decision.
Oh, and one thing, this is going to be just a second, and I can email everybody what I did here. And I talked to Debbie Anderson, who is the Cal or ambulance. She's the ground operations coordinator. And I talked to her for a little bit about what the medics would do and how we would work with them. And then she suggested that I talk to Andy Stubbs, who is the Curry Health Network RN, FSA, BSN, ED, and RN director, and the emergency preparedness coordinator for the county. And man, that was like drinking through a fire hose. But he had 4 things that he felt were important. One was incident command, develop training for responders and community, figure out our hazards and vulnerabilities, and develop our response plan. So those were the 4 out of all of the things possible. Those were the things he felt like we really needed to address. And so somehow we can try to work those into the goals that we came up with. Maybe there's a few of them that are right on.
When he talked about training, was it training for commissioners or the public?
Well, there's those trainings that Andrew, and he listed of, he didn't list as many as Andrew did, but there's the FEMA trainings, the 100 and the 200 and the 300 and 400, I think, are all online classes. And then there's an 800, a 7 and an 800 or something that you need to go somewhere for.
And that's for the public training?
This is for anybody that would be a part of the response and part of the incident command.
We'll be picking this up on 5C, CERT training, FEMA webinars. We can
Just kind of
pick that up
trainings in
then.
general.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay.
So maybe I'm wondering if we look through these and we just try to pick out the one that would be like definitely the number one, or there could be like a group of however many that are all kind of equal.
That's a good idea, but also if you have any objections to any of these goals or objectives, or if you want to add something to this, please do so.
It seems like the incident command system is probably one of the highest level things. If we're going to have any effect on an actual emergency,
So would that come under number 5?
one, I'm just thinking if we're setting our, our priorities, does that make sense, Dick?
Yeah, I think that we need to do that. How the IC system gets implemented would probably start locally at the county level. And then we have to consider how we would function more or less autonomously if we're severed from the rest of the county some way or another. And that's why I added some comments on the paragraph 3. It indicates a contact list. Well, that's great. So we contact these people, but we need to know how we're going to interact with these people so that what they expect from us if we need a service or there's some involvement for medical or utility, not necessarily water, but power and that sort of thing. What I've seen in the incidents I've been involved in wasn't a lack of capability or resources. It was no protocol to interact with these people. Surprising in some cases. So I made a little change or made an addition to paragraph 3, and I think that got passed out. And that may be no more than sitting in a room and defining how we interact with them.
What's your addition on number 3?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
What was your addition on number 3?
Oh, I think that got passed out. Did you get it? I'll read it if not.
I gave it to you, but why don't you go
Okay.
ahead and,
Develop communications protocols for interacting with city personnel and other local resources needed for rescue and recovery. These protocols will be planned to be effective in the event commercial communications assets are unusable, which is highly probable now with the vulnerability in the telecom networks nowadays. So you would have a way you would know who you work with and how they expect to interact with you if you had to get a utility involved. This often happens on a fire.
Right.
Same with the
Personally-
city.
Go ahead.
So that was my thought, is just defining how do we communicate and interact technically and then protocol wise with these entities.
And just in light of that, you're talking about which of these we should emphasize, prioritize to the council. And I would have to go with number 6, comms, because, we have to get our comms communication set up, or we're not going to, it doesn't matter what we have, what our other protocols are if we don't communicate. And we're pretty much going to be, ham and maybe some VHF, maybe, but it's probably, we're going to be very dependent on the hams.
I'm thinking those 3 are probably all equal. I don't see us actually having to go 1, 2, 3, but what are the first ones we want to attack, and
Right.
what are the lesser ones that?
Because if we are in a situation where, communications or our ground travel are curtailed, the only way we're going to get information of outsourced resources is going to be through our communication. So I just think that should be pretty high priority.
and actually, I think that A, under 3, your suggestion to develop communication protocols would fall under 6 rather than 3, because you're talking about interacting with city, communicating with city
Yeah.
personnel and other local resources. And that kind of fits into what we're talking about in 6.
Well, 3A and B are more of an administrative statement that, you know, we got to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then in 6, where it gets into the more the how-to,
And the hardware and
I address that. Comes under 2 elements. One is how we convey information to the community. I don't think we can depend on the NOAA advisories like we had on TV last night. At least we got it. And how we pass information to the residents, how we interchange with all the players here. I don't think it's hard to do. It's not expensive to do, but you have to have a plan and a few resources available to do it. So that's, and of course, it already covered the ham radio and operators. And the hams have a role that others can't even handle. It's an awkward system to try to do it, you know, between resource managers. It's sort of like a texting system, if you want to call it that. It's not a substitute for interaction directly with, you know, from the city. We say we need some fire apparatus or a rescue or something like that. To do that in a messaging system is kind of awkward.
Well, I think it's going to be situationally dependent. You know, we just had a big fire, and it was, you know, I know there was a lot of people who were upset that, you know, the local fire department wasn't involved, but that's not what they're trained for. But they were in communication with the fire chief. So, you know, in that situation, we didn't need, you know, extraneous comm systems. We just could use what we had. As a matter of fact, they brought in a mobile cell tower for the Elk River area. But I just think that if we're talking about the larger things, earthquake or tsunami, where we have destruction of all our standard communication things, then that's what we need to work with. Because fire already has established communication systems that, as long as they're working and we don't, you know, for fire, that's great. But if it's turns into all of
Well,
those
what I
things
had
being
in mind,
gone,
and Andrew made a good point. Typically, you don't want people dropping in on the operational channels when they don't know the protocols. They probably wouldn't get to the point quickly. What I had in mind was using another frequency that's just for that purpose, from comm center to comm center, or manage resource managers like the chief to the city manager and the people that make resource decisions, so they can interact directly to resolve their needs off operational channels.
So I think what we're trying to do here is first establish those priorities.
Yes, that's all.
And I think, Mari, you're saying communication should be a priority, if
Right.
not number 1 priority. I tend to agree with you on that. Are you wanting these or thinking these could fit in with the incident command center and the trainings and the hazard, fitting these goals in with those, or just making sure that these 4 are addressed through our goals?
I think we just come up with our list and those are our goals.
Mhm.
And they could be, you know, all of the ones that we had worked through or part of them, in other words. And I think we can flesh them out later.
Mhm.
But just to determine the groups that the council says, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You know, we need incident command, we need communications, and we need to know who to talk to and how.
If we're going to then suggest that communication be number 1 priority, is
It'll be in the group, you know, of first things to do as far as what we're going to suggest.
and establishing
And
the protocols that you're talking.
and then we can come, and then if they cut us loose and they go, yeah, I think, you know, you've got these things, they might call out one of them and say that, you know, question it, or I don't know.
May I make an observation?
Sure.
I think that there's two different conversations happening. I think that many of these items are actually things that can be started, finished, and taken off.
Right.
Whereas other ones have to be continually on the objective list, like comms or things like that, that you can't fix until the actual thing happens. But I'm just reading through here, I see a lot of these things that can be addressed, conquered, and taken off. Does that make sense?
It absolutely does, and I think that's our intention, to do that. And you start with a larger goal and work those things that are under it, or add or subtract as needed the objectives under that, and check them off as you complete them. So I think now what we're trying to do is establish a priority list and see if the council agrees with that, because whatever we do really has to go through the council and approved by the city council. So that's what we're trying to do now. But you're exactly right. This is the idea.
Well, why don't we not overwhelm the council and just start by saying we need to get our biggest priority dealing with the council is going to be the communications, and then things like the tsunami signage. I don't know that the council has to be in on that very much, do they? I mean,
Well, the money's going to come from the city,
oh, I see. I thought we
and
had,
so
I thought we had a separate budget.
or we're going to have cookie sales.
Yeah,
But
Because-
that would be, to me, I think we're trying to get to the real roots of what we're
right.
suggesting that we be about.
And there's more immediate things, purchasing metal storage containers. Well, we've already begun that process, and I think that's an ongoing process.
And here again, I think that can be down the road here of things. Is the council prepared to come up with the money for us to do that? Or is there any point in us even thinking about the containers?
But wouldn't it make more sense to have a budget for the things that have a value and present the whole budget?
The money's so tight that we're going to have to say, okay, this is the plan. This is how much this will cost to put the radios in the vehicles. Are you willing to do that? And we'll go ahead and try to get as much as we can from the council, but we may not get anything in this next couple of years just because of how tight the money is going to be.
Yeah, and the radios right now, the emergency services works on VTAC. And that's kind of a universal thing between counties and states and everything. It was a big problem in 9/11, so that we can go on to certain frequencies, and an outfit comes down from Washington on a mutual aid, and we've got a frequency already established. And I talked to Dave Duncan about this, and there's their working frequencies that they use for training. There's frequencies that they use when they're working with North County, Central County, or South County. So there's already established things so they're not stepping on each other. But, the radio I had when I was with them, I could talk to a Coast Guard helicopter. I could, we have handhelds that'll do certain things, but it's very limited as far as distance and, and that's where I'm talking about the different situations. If we have a fire and we have to work with Central County, we already have that established in the fire departments of what frequency we're working on.
Now, is that
lose everything.
Is that off of a repeater or?
Those are just handheld between vehicle and in the trucks.
But I mean, can we talk to other parts of the county if, say, the repeaters went out?
They have both tactical and the repeater channels. And I think the fire service probably has more capability between agencies because they're used to taking strike teams,
Yeah.
and so forth. So it's something they're used to. But I think I don't remember your name, I'm sorry, but I think you made a good point. We have to first see what the city wants to do. Do they
Right.
see their role in a disaster incident, or they want to pass it off to the county? If they want to have a role, then they have to have the ability to implement that. And if you don't have communications, you're not in charge of anything.
Mhm.
I'm guessing they might want to assume that role, but I don't know that to be a fact until they tell us. Then we could throw a budget back at them and say, okay, to accomplish what you think you want to do, this is what it's going to take to do it. And frankly, I don't think it's going to take a lot of money, and they may have half of the stuff already and don't even have it in service.
Well, this is, again, a topic that needs special attention, which means if one of the commissioners can take it on and move forward with it, bringing in whatever resources, human and otherwise, to do that. This was the idea of the goals and objectives, is someone to
So we
tackle
really
it.
actually don't need to know that until we know that the council's going to approve.
What they want.
Well, sure.
So we don't really need to assign anyone tonight. I think
Mhm.
everybody can be thinking about it, but we really just need that list of items. And it could even be less than what we came up with that you have here, just the actual topics of incident command system. If the council really wants to take command of the emergency, then we will need an incident command system. If they don't, then we forget the whole idea.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's not part of what we do.
I think for me, one of the priorities should be providing information
Mhm.
to residents,
Yeah.
because that's an ongoing thing. And as we accomplish some of these other goals and objectives, to get that information out so that the more we can educate the public on how to respond to emergencies and what to do in emergencies. And I think your brochure that you're going to talk about later has everything to do with that. So keeping the public informed, at least for me, should be a priority goal. What,
And that's something I
thought.
almost positive the council's going to go for because it's not going to cost any money.
And it's already being
We'll take two of
produced.
those.
It's what,
It's already being produced. This is put out by Coos and Curry County. And it's, you know, I picked it up at the Langley's Library for free. And it's got, you know, some short little things in there, you know, for people if they don't want to read through the whole thing, but it's pretty much complete.
We have that at City Hall.
Uh-huh. So, I mean, if there's some way that we can, you know, get this into the Port Orford Library, get this in, you know, start distributing this. I don't know.
and that could be what we use as a guide
I don't know what
for
the
our-
cost is, or, you know, who, if we
What we're
get
gonna
it
do
for
for
free
each
from
month.
Curry County, or, you know, what. But I mean, this is a
Because if we're going to
cheap
do
way out.
we're going to do the campaign like each month, we
Right.
could just go ahead and promote that overall, but take all of the things that
Yeah,
are,
and do a thing like she had for the house numbers, that little flyer that she had for the house
Which is
numbers.
supposed to go out, I think, in the next bill. Is that correct?
will they need the information? Where you going to
Yes.
get, yeah.
So what are your thoughts as far as having number 4 as priority to getting information out to people?
I don't know. I think just having a list, you know, we're going to have kind of a ballpark idea. Right now, we've got 4 items that are the top 4.
Yeah.
I don't know that it matters. One is ahead of the other. They're all kind of equal. If the council approves all 4, incident command system, how to communicate and who to, and then actually having the communication equipment and then informing the community.
Okay, I'm confused. Are we dealing with the 4 that you've just given us?
No, the 4 that
Incident-
we've just been talking about.
Okay, so which are
We're still, that's the 4 that are
on the
for
goals and
sure.
objectives?
Yeah.
Okay, so we've got communication, information. What are the other 2 you're
That's
talking
number
about?
4, number 6, we talked about.
Paragraph 3 and paragraph 6.
Number
Okay.
2, I think we talked about, because we're already working on that.
On what?
Containers.
I think we need to find out if they want us to do a container cache, you know, I don't know what program or I don't know.
They're familiar with what you've already done, correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And they've approved another site, the one on Jefferson and 9th.
Yeah, I would just go with.
But
those
they haven't
three.
approved any money.
Right.
So it's not going to, if they're not going to approve any money or don't see that coming down the road, a container is around $10,000. So that's like if we were going to get 10 or 11,000 a year, that's going to be the whole budget is going to go to a container. And is that the priority over getting radios and getting people educated and whatever things we need to do for the.
I would still add number 5 to the list though, because it is something you're already working on. And we do need to select locations for providing all of this.
But they have to agree, I think,
Yes.
to, and
So we're agreed to submit to the city council number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, and number 6.
That sounds good.
Is that correct?
okay, and then the containers would be to purchase and locate
Okay, do I have a motion?
and locations.
I move that we submit to the council our entire commission goals and objectives, but that we prioritize 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as the ones that we would be most, depending on how much they value, find out how much they value those.
Okay,
Well, 3 probably could be reworded a little bit because I think what we're looking for is an opinion from the council and what they feel their legal obligations are and their interest in even being involved. There are some legal obligations that the city has for recovery. And of course, they have an obligation with the utilities, with the sewer and water. They could be involved in the roads. They may be then there's mediary and soliciting rescue services, whether it comes from fire or wherever it comes from, and law enforcement if they need it. But we don't know what they see their role to be. Once we know what they think they want to do, then we can come up with some plans in accomplishing that along with a budget.
Right.
And it doesn't take a lot of money. That's the nice thing about it. And they have 6 radios now that are in boxes. I saw one of them that could be used for something like that. Not necessarily in vehicles. They work very nicely as base stations. And they're intended for that by the manufacturer. So all that is contingent on them wanting to be involved. That's what we need to find out. And
I can see that once these are approved, the city council approving these, that they can be expanded and worked on beyond that. But to keep it simple with regard to giving them the information initially and then
And then I
expanding that
think
later.
from there, I can give a liaison reports on how we're doing with each of the things. And there could be questions at some point of, but to spend money, like I addressed the radios at the last council meeting, and right off, they just want a proposal. They want to know how much it's going to cost and for what. And then they approve it or they don't approve it. And then that's.
So we have a motion by.
Now, is that all? So we've covered all of the, you think we've covered everything?
Yeah, the motion is to submit this list to the council with the priorities being number 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 as the ones that we think are most important. That's the motion.
Well, and then incident command, are we saying that that's a priority? That would be 9.
Where's that?
We're adding that.
We're adding that.
That was the first thing we talked about.
Okay, well, yeah, with that added. That's the
Number
motion.
is that?
9.
It's not in here.
No, it's not, because that was one of the things that Andy Stubbs said that we needed to.
So we would make that number 10.
Well, I feel it's a priority.
Okay, so
I mean, does
incident.
that makes sense that it's a priority?
Sure.
Did you want to add that to your motion?
Yes.
Number
Well, I
10.
just wanted to make sure that we have enough discussion on this, that we're covering everything. There's the local business aspect. So you're saying that these others, we're going to go ahead and
They're
present?
all important. They're all important. We're prioritizing which
Okay.
are the ones we most want to spend. Some of this stuff is just going to be yakking,
Right.
doesn't cost money. But the ones that we need to submit to the council that cost money are the ones we're prioritizing at this time, because we can go without the council's approval and talk to the restaurants and say, what do you want to do? That's,
Mhm.
and then come back to this and go, here's what I got. But,
Did you want to amend your motion to include number 10, Incident
yes.
Command Center?
Yes. We'll add number 10, incident command.
Or
Okay.
is it 10 or what's number 9?
9
Pursue
is
grants.
pursue grants.
Oh, pursue grants.
Do we have a second?
I second that.
And then again, on grants, it's not like we can just go out and get a grant. We have to get approval, because all of the grants have to go through DINA. So we're trying to get grants for water, and we're trying to get grants we're kind of using up our horsepower in the office.
Right.
So the chances of us getting grants, because I asked Melissa specifically.
That's why it's not a priority right now, is because there's
good.
no
Good.
room for it at this
But
time.
I just wanted to let everybody know that we just can't go out and get grants.
There ain't no money.
Okay.
Since the motion and the second technically brings it on the floor for discussion,
Yes.
I kind of lost track of what exactly is number 10. Maybe somebody could,
Incident command system,
follow the incident command system.
and to develop it so that the council's deciding that we are going to have an incident command system. And then they need to know what it's going to take for that to happen.
Okay, but which one of these would you think would get us an opinion from them on what they really want to do?
I think the whole thing.
The whole thing?
The whole thing. I mean, look at this whole thing. It's going to get them to go, oh, okay, we have to give them permission to go ahead and start pursuing some of these.
Because
Then we can give them a budget, and this is what it's going to cost to do this, and this.
this specific
Okay,
things
I get it.
and try to break it down. And what I'll probably do is go and talk to Melissa. I'll email her our list, and then have a discussion with her, and then have her talk with Pat and get it on the agenda with her understanding because if she's going to be in on it, she needs to understand it all.
Okay, so let's call the vote on this.
I
Commissioner Burns?
Oh, aye.
Okay. Aye, all right. Motion passes. Do we want to take on E, discussion regarding a budget committee yet before we hear back from the city council?
I don't think so.
Probably not, I think. Shall we table that?
Yes.
The goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We know under new business E, discussion regarding a budget committee. I think that's something you suggested.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can hold off on.
All right. Okay, old business. Discussion of current projects, signage.
Can I get slip in my
Oh,
additions
yes.
to the agenda? I just wanted to bring up, we have talked about, mitigation of fire hazards in town and in the surrounding area, and that a lot of it is contingent on the landowners. It's not something that, we can just march out there and do. I really like to promote early on the free brush week that is offered by Curry Transfer and Recycling by getting something on, what is the little website you have, Gary?
The emergency one or the
No, the
networks?
networks. letting people know that Free Brush Week in Port Orford, they're different at different sites, is May 7th through 11th. And you can take any brush in there and dump it for free, no gate charge or anything. And then in addition, on May 16th, they will have a curbside pickup of brush only for free
Where can we dump it locally?
at the recycling
On
place.
Arizona?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of people don't have any way to get brush there, or the cost is prohibitive. You know, you take any yard of brush and it's going to start adding up. So if we can really promote this, and under the heading of fire prevention, it's like now is the time. People don't think about fire prevention until it's September. That's not the time to get rid of your brush. Now is when you get rid of the brush. And I would like to emphasize that on that site if you could, and that you have the advantage of Free Brush Week. So,
Great.
and then the other thing is this little book that we've already talked about. It is, you know, has it's the Coos County Emergency Management, Curry County Emergency Management are putting it out. And I think that, you know, we can utilize this to start informing the public. You know, it's just a really,
This is available at City Hall because I picked it up and it is good
Yeah.
information, but how can we better?
well, it's at the
distribute-
library in Langlois.
That would be another good.
That's a
place to-
start.
Yeah.
And Denise is, what's that?
Put it at the library
Yeah.
Yeah.
or the post office, I'm sorry.
Both places.
So I
Might
wonder
just
how many
get
of those we
chucked
get.
at the post office. We'd have to talk to Wade about that. Yeah, he
I wonder
doesn't.
how many of them we can get.
I have no idea. I haven't.
I can talk to Joseph to see how many they already have because they obviously have some. And then we'd have to decide how many more we'd want.
What's it
I
called
think.
again?
Are you ready? I'll just give you this one, Gary, and you
Oh,
can
perfect.
have a look at it. They add a little extra things for people from out of town for
I
beach
just
safe.
published it. FEMA?
They don't say. They just say who has access to it. Nope, they don't say in here. So they have an addition. Curry County Emergency Management has put in a little, you know, FEMA thing. And as I said, a little card for beach safety for people who aren't from around here, you know. Like, what is a tide? Things like that.
Yeah.
And so that's it. And
Down the
I just
road-
wanted to let you know, Gary, because you are running that networks thing, and that would be a thing that I get Dave Duncan to put that on the Facebook page for the fire department, and just try to get people clearing their brush out now. And
So putting it on the street, they would just make a pile out on the street?
I don't know.
It has to go into a yard waste bag.
Oh, is
oh.
that how it
It
works?
has to go into yard waste. If you're having them pick it up, it has to go into yard waste bags.
You could
Ba-
call
bag?
CTR.
A bag?
Yeah, the big,
Oh.
like lawn and leaf
Paper
bags.
bags.
Yeah, they're paper.
I'll
That,
call
that they provide, or they would have to purchase?
Homeowners.
Homeowners,
homeowners,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, is that it, Mari?
That's all I have in addition, yeah. So onward to old business.
Signage.
I didn't go look. I meant to, but I didn't drive around and look at where the signage. I did look at how signage was installed in Bandon. I have noticed that they're putting up more of the additional signs, and they do use the pre-existing posts that are on that have stop signs and stuff on them already. So that's
We had talked about doing the same thing.
Yeah,
So we can continue this at our next meeting and
Yeah.
just get updates
I
on
have
it.
that list of the places that Jim recommended that we, you know, put them in in accordance with the tsunami evacuation plan that the state has established, which is where everybody is supposed to go. Some of it is counterintuitive, especially for 12th Street and Hamlet. That's our big scary area for tsunami.
Right.
And I think Jim was looking at a bid for the signs. So if we could get a bid on how many a dozen costs, and then I can make a proposal for the council and just have them approve it.
And go and look where there's already signposts that we can just put
And
them on there.
and then we can go and probably just make sure that the first ones, well, there should probably be a priority, and we might need a group of committee to pick out
Mhm.
the exact spots, make sure that there is a stop sign, that you could put one on that's facing the right way. And
Right.
Okay. And we'll continue this next meeting, and it might be a continuing item to talk about because I think it'll be ongoing.
It'd be
Okay,
productive if by next meeting we can get a budget and a general plan to take to the council and get a yea or nay.
Yeah.
It's sitting there, it's been stagnant for quite a while, I guess.
Yeah.
it's hard to know when it comes to the money, how, whether that's a higher priority than getting the radios installed. And we don't even know if council really wants the radios installed in the public works vehicles and really, I don't know, I don't feel that the base station should be, and we can't depend on the city, Melissa's office as being, there could be a lot of emergencies where that would be intact, but
Yeah. But
there's a lot that it wouldn't.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, containers. Gary, do you want to talk about that?
as far as,
Any updates on that from?
we were waiting for the weather to go up and clear that site on Jefferson and 9th. But there again is, when are we going to be able to spend $10,000 on a container? And then who knows how much it's going to cost to put stuff in the container?
are our other containers full?
No.
So it's not like
we have the school container that's on Jackson Street,
we got the one at
and we have the one by the fire station that,
and we have permission to put one up on Coast Guard Hill.
not yet.
Oh, not yet.
And if we did get permission for that, that would probably be a priority because we would use that as
I
a,
should think so, because that would also be a better ham base than pretty much any place else that I can see.
Do we have
wanna
a
make
list
sure
of
we
things
had
we want to
communications
put in
up
the
there.
containers?
Coast Guard Hill.
in the containers.
Not really. It's kind of been
We need to,
what donations have
Whatever
been
we can
made.
get.
Yeah.
Permission from that then have to
we
come
need to
from
get
the state.
permission to do that.
It's
I've
state
been
parks, yeah.
doing that.
And
Yeah.
it has been, we've initiated that, but we haven't gotten any firm commitment from them on.
I missed, that's Coast Guard.
She asked if, with the permission for the Coast Guard Hill had to come from the state, and yeah, State Parks has to approve it. And we haven't got a commitment from them yet. I
No,
don't
Joe
think.
Kennick went to his regional supervisors and they didn't like the idea, but they're hiring a new operations director and they're going to get together and see if that's something they feel they could just do locally, make the
A
decision.
visual appeal or what was the blowback?
It was just the person that is in that position didn't feel like that was an important thing, but I don't know if they're in Eugene or, somewhere else. But Joe felt that when he got the new employee that they would discuss it, and he really is behind the idea. He's the main guy for our district. And so he's fighting for us.
Because that seems like something that could be moved out of city budget into state budget.
We'll be lucky if they let us park it there.
Yeah.
Well, I know, but.
But if they do, then I don't mind pushing it. Not before they approve it, but yeah, if they do approve it, I think that's a good.
I would think we'd want to get a list of some of the contents that we would like to have in there, and then the list of the contents that are in there, so that we have a reference should anything happen, where things might be and what we can expect in one container over another.
Yeah, and I've advocated for a while that we need to have an inventory list at the door,
Yeah.
inside the door of the container, so you don't have to unpack the whole darn thing and find out all you've got is body bag.
Yeah.
They're pretty skimpy as
Yeah.
far as what's in them right now. There's all medical up in the fire station, and it's just a mixture of things. The one on Jackson Street got broken into, and so some of the things that they had a stove and they had some different things that were taken, and that's when we put the new lock on. And
We could develop an inventory list under number 2, containers. Undergo.
But I feel like right now we've got it on the list for them to approve or not. And I don't think there's any reason to go forward other than just having them say we go along with the idea and that we'll spend some money on it,
Mhm.
because that's more than cookie money. And if we have it up at Coast Guard Hill, if we get the permission, there's only room for 2 20-footers. So that's more expensive. We can't put a 48-footer up there. And those are big, those are easier to get than the short ones. So the short ones are going to be pretty expensive.
Yeah, and the gas grill we got out of,
That's right, I saw that.
it's outside now, so I don't know if you want to take a look at it.
I did.
Do you think it's worth?
It doesn't take up much space.
Dave says it works,
Yeah, you have to have propane, I
right?
believe, for it. If the containers are pretty much empty, we can maybe set up a time to get that gas grill. I would probably put it up in the Cedar Terrace one, just because there's such a turnover of stuff at the Jackson Street container. And
Yeah.
Yeah, I would put it in the chief's ear and maybe on a Tuesday we can get it hauled up there.
I will work on that.
Yeah.
I will discuss it with Dave Duncan, get it up to Cedar Terrace, and then get together with you and get that container open and put it somewhere in the back. And, who knows? Might be a thing you can pull out of there and
Could be a real asset.
and
As
sling
long
some
as
hash.
there's room. Yeah.
Mhm.
It doesn't take, it stands up, so it doesn't.
Yeah, I
take up,
saw it. So
and
it's,
and
things could be stacked on top of it.
right.
What about having propane on hand? Would that be something we'd want to put in the containers? A few gallon,
Mm. Is that a hazmat thing? They have to have special stuff if you're going to be storing propane.
have to look at it, huh?
Yeah, because you do have there are a lot of rules with how you store propane, especially in an enclosed thing, because if you have any kind of leak and it pools up,
Boom. Yeah.
yeah, there's the big woomph.
Yeah. I'll look into it,
Yeah.
see if I can find out.
And shelving is a big deal, and it's pretty expensive. If you don't have shelving,
Yeah.
you've got a real mess.
Mhm.
If you're just trying to stack everything and fill the container. And it's hard to work. You got to pretty much take everything out if it's all stacked on itself, and
Hmm.
that isn't very convenient.
Okay. Emergency preparedness plan. Jim Howe is not here. He's the one that's been working on it. Do you think next week he would come in and give us a brief idea of where he's at?
Yeah, I'll just stay in communication with him and see what he
Okay.
thinks. Regardless, we do have the draft copy, and
Mhm. Was that sent to everyone? I know I got a copy of it. Did you get a copy of it, Dick?
Oh, yeah, I did a long time ago. That one, a couple months ago. The one I know about.
I know we've gotten so many things.
Yeah, we'll have to check to see if you got the right copy. Do you have a copy, Mari,
Of what?
of the plan?
No, I do not.
Okay.
Must be on somebody.
Then you made some copies.
Joseph made a copy for me. I could get him to make copies for the rest of the
We should
commission.
probably have a group on the commission that takes that on. Otherwise, it's more than I think all of us should work on at one time.
Mhm.
Seems like we should, I don't know, we need to have a strategy how we're going to approach that, because it needs to be read and then critiqued, and it's kind of cumbersome for the whole commission, I think, but I don't know.
Well, it would be a good idea, I think, for the commission to read
Because I'm not
what we
ready,
already
I'm not
have.
ready to take that on myself personally right now. I'm not going to read that between now and our next meeting,
Okay,
because I just have too many other things that are
but would
going.
other commissioners
But there
like to
could be a
get the
group
latest
that,
copy of it? I don't know, Mari, if you have the latest copy. Okay,
No,
Somebody must have it on a computer. They just
yeah,
do
probably.
yeah.
e-blast on it or
that
something.
would be Jim.
Well, and Joseph has,
Yes.
so, so we're gonna, I think it's gonna take a little bit for Jim, for us to see if Jim's gonna be in on it,
Working on it.
because that will be important. And then Jim and one or two other people could take it on, and then critique it and come up with, then I think then the whole commission could read it and approve it to go on to the council.
Okay.
Well, can we assume that you or Joseph or somebody will do an e-blast so we all have it?
I'll check with Joseph on that. Sure.
I might, but I don't know. I've seen a couple of them.
Okay, Ashley Thin presentation, that was canceled, correct?
I asked you if she was coming. I didn't have any contact with. I've called her, but I haven't gotten a call back from her.
Okay, it was just an update
Okay.
on what was happening with her.
And the same thing with the training. I've communicated with Ruth Dixon and haven't heard back from her.
Okay, and then you sent out information on the FEMA webinars. Did everybody get that? I know I got it.
FEMA one?
These are the webinars that you recommended, educational webinars,
Oh,
training.
right. I just sent it to you.
Did the others get it?
No.
Oh, okay. So I'll send that out. I think the first one has happened. The second one is coming up.
There's a whole bunch of different
Yeah,
things.
I'll look
in
at it.
that. Yeah. For me, there's getting to be so much information, and I have so many different, and then I'm involved in so many groups that
Yeah.
I'm just swimming in information that
Yeah, me too.
I can't organize it.
We've had just a month of very intense meetings with Coast Community. I think it's starting to level off at this point, but there's like not been any extra time for,
Are you on the?
yeah, I'm on that board, and it's,
Yeah, it sounds like a lot has gone on. And it looks really good
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
far.
it does.
Okay, public
Well,
considerations.
that's great, because at some point, we're going to want to find out who to talk to about our clinic and what.
But now is not the time. The CEO is there for 2 weeks. We just had an on-site visit, which is a big 3-year federal thing. And there's just really, it's kind of like Melissa right now.
Mhm.
It's like, here you go. Good luck. Hope you can run fast. So once she kind of gets established, then we'll be in a better position to
And
discuss. that.
Andy Stubbs had mentioned that as we get into this and evolve, it's a matter of us just continually getting Coast Community Health and the county and CalOR together for a meeting. And then you have another meeting, and they get used to being with each other, and they get used to how they're going to address united in an event and not have them all doing their own thing. So that'll be important.
So did you want
Yes, we're
to
under
be on the?
public considerations now, and if you want to come up and introduce yourself, Diane, we didn't have a chance to.
I've just been taking some notes and it seems like there's a lot of opportunity to consolidate some.
Excuse me, can you sit at the table
Yeah,
and maybe use
absolutely.
the microphone? Then we
Oh
can
yeah,
see
then it'll
better.
be on the video.
Yeah, no problem. I'm live. Okay, my name's Diane Hosford. I lived here nearly 10 years and own the Crazy Norwegian. It seems like there are a lot of fractures that could easily be put together in this group without ruffling feathers of other agencies or other commissions. Just in listening to this short 45-minute discussion. So thanks for inviting me to come to the meeting because I was curious about what's happening and how this city has its own emergency preparedness and but I think there are opportunities to get money and get funding that don't rely on the city. And I don't think it would be as hard as it might seem. For example, Beacon Broadband, who's like knocking on every business and every household in this city constantly asking, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Well, here's something they could do, is secure a container. They're going to have extra ones when they're done installing their lines. They have access to property that you might not have even thought about. And they're flashing their dollars all over the place. And I know this because I'm helping with 4-H. I help with 4-H camp. I'm the cook for Lobster Creek Camp. So I asked them for money and Bill Gertz, he's like, well, we have 5 channels where you can go down to ask for money. So to take some of the onus off the city in some of these ideas and just going down this list, I think what I started to say in the beginning is some of these are action items and some of them are more of a mission statement idea. And I think that there are action items on this list that you don't have to ask the city for money. There are other agencies. That's why I asked who published that. Because if it's published by FEMA or a federal agency, somebody's got a stack of 18,000 of them sitting in a building.
We might.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah.
it's just, I think it might be helpful to not, and I don't know if this is possible, to not have to run every single thing through the city council because y'all have enough on your plate. The city's a hot mess and you know that, we know that. If there's a way to make this commission not quite as dependent upon going through city council, I think, because ultimately, what's your goal? The goal is when it hits the fan to be able to help those marginalized residents of our community. It's not going to be the ones that can afford their own fire brigade or whatever to protect their stuff. It's going to be the people that are marginalized, aged, things like that. So if there are ways to go around pushing every single agenda item through city council, I would say that might be something that takes priority. But again, I'm just listening and gathering information, and there are some holes that I think that you could fill without asking the city for money. That's all.
Thank you. I totally agree. And I think what we want to do is just give the council an idea of what directions we're heading in. just for that. But I'm hoping and thinking that beyond that, we can be able to act independently and move forward with all of this.
And I can do a lot in the liaison report. I can give like a whole report on what the commission's doing. And then if they have any questions, they say it. Otherwise, we just move through the liaison report.
I also like and appreciate your recommendation as far as looking for other
Yeah,
funding
for sure.
besides the city. Beacon Broadband sounds ideal.
And probably a number of different seafood company or, I mean, there's probably a,
I mean, there's money out there.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But again, it takes manpower to go get it. And so that's what we would have to figure out, not necessarily where to go, but who's going to take this on and what's the approach.
So, did you want to be on the committee? And we'll give you number 9, pursue grants and other resources. I mean, it's a pleasure to put me. You can have number 9 right now.
She has been invited for that purpose.
It'll be all yours. We'll just write the rate in there.
Thank you, Diane. And Steve?
Hello, folks. My name's Stephen Dahl. I will have been here 7 years in August. My wife thinks the town's magic, real interesting place. I was on the Planning Commission for 2 years. And in our monthly meetings, in 3 out of 4 of them for the 2 years I was on the commission before the mayor asked me to leave and go to parks because of deaths that had been in the Parks Commission. We talked about the Cascadia subduction regularly. And there were things that we were supposed to do in planning. And we talked about signage, gosh, that's 5 years ago. The only thing that really came out of it is I have 4 months of food for 6 people. I went around and bought freeze-dried food because I'm a Boy Scout. So I've got, cases to take out, and we have a little spot up on Coast Guard Hill that we intend to go to, when the subduction happens. The only experience I have with CERT stuff is I worked for the city of Bothell and I was a beggar. I was in recreation. So it was my job to get sponsorships for like music in the park and the 4th of July parade and that kind of stuff. So what I did for the city is what you guys are just talking about doing. I went around and begged people. I talked to all of the restaurants in town for food. And we had breakouts about what kind of food, what their monthly stock was like, knowing when there was a problem about who we could use for food in the town. And that's what we did, was just we looked around, and the city sent me out to look for sponsorships. And basically it was to find other groups that would do the work for us. And I talked with the Boy Scout troops and people in the high schools and the junior highs. But that's the kind of stuff that we did with our CERT, and that was back the turn of the century. And so, I came on the invitation to see what y'all were doing. I'm out of town a lot in the next 3 months. So, and I won't be around for that next meeting you have coming up. But yeah, I'm real curious about, how this plays, and I'm quite willing to be in a position where if you need specific things done, I'm quite willing to try to help on them. So.
Did you want to fill out an application, Steve? Or did you want to just act as a resource to the commission?
Well, if you guys, if you talk about things, a couple of you know me. So, yeah, if something pops up that you think, I might be able to help with, feel free to give me a holler.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think we'll have seven members on the commission, which can change as well.
Yes.
And but I feel we have to be effective, we have to involve a lot of people in the community.
Sure.
And we can't have everybody on the commission. But we can certainly create ways for people to be involved and productive.
Yeah, and I had a ham radio license when I was 14, but I mean, that's 65 years ago.
Well, we are also talking about under the goals and objectives
Mhm.
that we each, when we take on the goals, that we form a committee of additional people to help out so that we're not working alone, because there's no way we can accomplish this individually. So we would be looking for people like
No.
you, Steve, to help out.
And
But-
there are a whole lot of younger community members that aren't being accessed or asked. Like my whole staff, you know, if I ask them to do something for the community, they don't even think about it until you ask them and they go, oh, what a great idea. You know, because unless you've grown up with the philanthropy or being involved in your community, it's real easy to not.
Mhm.
But once, so
You get a taste of it.
yeah, but it's cool, you know, it really is. And I've watched the kids that work for me just go, whoa, this is cool to be asked. And so that's, you know,
Mhm.
not necessarily being a commissioner or whatever, but just to have the ability to ask members of our community and make the jobs little so that they're successful. You know, that's what you have to do.
And feel important. They feel.
In setting a goal, you have to make it attainable. It can't be nebulous.
Mhm.
But if I went to my crew that's working right now, except now they're probably tired and bitchy, but if I said, hey, would you consider putting together shelves inside of a container? They would 100% say yes.
Mhm.
So yeah, and Steve's really good at that because since he came to town, he's not afraid to ask people to do stuff. It's true.
Or four things, yeah.
Or four things. So
No, I agree, Diane. That's exactly how to approach it, is
Yeah.
bringing other people into the process. And it makes for a better community overall when you involve more people.
Mhm.
Yeah, thank you.
Yep. Oh, thank you for what you guys are doing.
Okay, our next meeting is April 25th. Can everybody make that meeting?
Oh, one more thing. I was curious about what everybody thought about pitching ideas to the community on Facebook as to what they feel like an emergency preparedness would be in their opinion. Does the community, do they buy in to having somebody help, or does everybody just want to be on their own? You know, I'd be interested to know.
I think it's a good idea. Is
have a
that
straw poll, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there could be just some ideas come out of it, maybe some volunteers come
Yeah,
out of
I
it,
think it's a good idea. Is that something you'd put on networks
Uh-huh.
and
and the
news?
emergency
Yeah.
page and.
Yeah, I think are you
Yeah,
willing to do that?
Gary, I would definitely put it in a, check the box and not allow comments, because you know it's gonna go into the preppers range and it's, but if
Yeah.
you came up with just a simple poll that people could answer on the Facebook portal,
Mhm.
Facebook page, but you're not allowed to do your diatribe of Joe Biden's gonna cause the accident or
Yeah.
Donald Trump's gonna save us. You know, it's gotta be so that it's
Yeah.
not politicized. In my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea.
I've got full control of the network, so
I know
that
you
helps.
do. I know you do, but how often do you have to go? Every day you go and say, this is not appropriate.
Mm-hmm.
But you can, it's easy to turn off the comments.
I do that often, yeah. Cool. I'll work on that.
Okay, thank you. Anything
So
else?
we agree. I'll go ahead and present what we've come up with to the council, and then we'll get some feedback. And then our meeting will be the week after. And we'll have some things to talk about from that.
Did you want me to send you a revised copy of this with the addition of number 10, incident command and system?
Sure,
Okay, I'll clean it up.
that'd be a big help.
Alrighty.
And were you also going to give them a copy of the mission statement?
Uh-huh.
All right. Good. All right, with that, I think we'll adjourn. Do I get to use the hammer when I do this?
Well, you're pretty good at that.
Boy, Pat really uses that. It just about knocks everybody off their chair.
Information inside there.
Oh, perfect. Oh,
And if you call CTR.
I can get all the
she will
details.
Tell you exactly how the brush.
That's one of the notes that I made. There's nothing on here about,
Cities that see, you just keep it by the road and have it spreads it up as you go along.
Oh,
and yeah, it's hard. It's hard.
Hey, thanks for
all
that.
right.
This is all just the information
Yes.
for the,
Do you know how to close this?
Yeah, oh, right.
Here. That's it now?
this is just the Coast Guard Hill.
It's- yeah, Or wherever we wind up with. Well, it had to be someplace where we have power source, you know, and the antenna.
So this generator's power source.
Well, 110 whenever it's available.
Oh, right.
That's
The library can't even,
the
get stuff going
power
on.
supply.
Just the library.
Uh-huh.
For the
Uh,
elementary kids.
compared to 110.
Yeah, the high school, really tough.
Well, last year's graduating class was 4. This year has 14. 3 of those
When
girls
the
that are
grid
raising money for their Spain trip
As well.
are crushing it.
You can look
But
out.
they are basically
Right,
like,
what is
this
it?
and that. In fact, I'm gonna give
Um,
those girls
they
a
would be
scholarship this year.
very
because
minimal.
I don't have
And all.
anyone on my staff who's
And
further
I
in
just
their
kind of.
education.
When my grandson graduated, I think it was 3 years ago now.
Right, right.
There were
And
10.
This is, this is the solar, and,
Yeah.
okay, I get it now, I see. I just didn't-
Yeah, I mean, because, you know, you tell them 3,000 some odd dollars, but you know.
Well,
our
I'm I have
And
a
all.
long career in food and beverage.
I went out and
But
got donated.
Before I moved
wound up
here,
getting
I
out
did a lot of,
$10,000 put
I
together.
call it crisis management for small.
And that was when the businesses, Gary donated
And
quite
I've
a bit
been,
and everything.
I grew up in service.
And so we have
I've
that
always
trailer
been
that's
involved in
available and we
service.
have
Kind of
an
backed out
MOU
when
with
I
the
worked
city
here because the
that
restaurant
is available
took
for anything.
110% of my time.
Which
But now it's kind
in
of,
some instances it'd be able to get someplace,
I'm ready
but
to,
if it's a
the
tsunami,
kids that are working for me
No,
have been
not
working
going.
for me long enough where if I'm too much
This
at
is
the
where-
restaurant, they're like,
this
Yeah,
is-
they live there.
somewhere to
Right.
go.
I tried years ago.
So I'm just starting to get back,
Cedar Terrace.
I'm just starting to get back into
Yeah.
um,
I remember that.
my ideas of.
Well, actually, the
So
neighbor.
last year I did
The neighbor just acquired.
I talked to some of them and it's because
4-H
scale.
camp and was the chef
Oh, really?
for each
Yeah.
camp. And this year I'm gonna.
And all we were talking about doing is putting up a
Protocols,
fire.
they don't have any protocols. so
And all, I had a
somebody without
power
my
company
experience could
was gonna put
actually
up 2 poles
do
to string the wire
it's not
between,
easy.
which there's already
800
poles up there.
meals.
We approved this again.
With no freezer,
Yeah, because that would be an ideal location for one
80
too.
campers.
Yeah.
and,
And I don't
so
like having all your.
Just starting to
eggs
get
in
back into
No,
community
but
service.
they're,
because I always, I worked for in
did
AIDS and HIV fundraising for
was
25 years. In fact, I met the
Yeah.
guy that on
Had
Thursday.
to change our dance up there for a little while.
There's an AIDS and
Just to
HIV
get her calmed down
outreach gentleman named Joe,
and settle
who's
down. And then it was like,
fantastic. Apparently the
but now,
commissioners
you know,
keep
Dave
him
has
out of
been
the
chief
meetings.
for a while. He might
Out
have
of
a
his,
different- I'll bring it up with him.
well, that's a whole
Fire
nother
Yeah,
board
'cause-
meeting or
But I
something.
was laughing, I'm like,
What's
encourage.
funny, at my house, I've got a tower with a big antenna that's 36 feet long with radio sticking out of it, plus another antenna on top of that and another one on top. And I tell people when they come to visit me first time,
I'm
look at the
like-
antennas, they don't find them.
Right.
So
And I've also
obviously
got a wire
education
antenna
needs
that's
to be back
About 250
covering
feet
that
long.
bad boy up.
It goes.
It's the key in the seniors and
And if you're not looking for it, you
Yeah.
can't see it.
venereal disease is.
One of the things I found is if you go to the people
Right?
Syphilis and gonorrhea in the
think
back.
Well,
might be
we
impacted.
can just start on how many things are going
And
backwards
talk to
right now.
Yeah.
That'll be a discussion for
Yeah.
We,
hours.
You know, it's like that's what we
Well,
did
And,
with that
and I can see
trailer
your
on Ninth
point
Street.
background.
And
I-
I know that woman who lives next door to that.
What's putting in containers,
Yeah,
how
Let's
we're
go
gonna
talk to her
approach
first. I went up there and I explained what was going on and she's up, now she's all for it.
Dick's
But,
got
you know, there's,
expertise.
there's two ways that you shove it down their throat.
There's expertise throughout.
Offer it to
Yeah,
them.
well, I had put together a PowerPoint presentation to show what we were gonna
I
do
think your expertise.
and all, and everything else, but never even got the opportunity to show it.
Right.
yeah, sorry to hear about
No, I
that.
don't even think of PowerPoint. I think it's like you and me talking.
Yeah.
You know, these
Yeah.
people want, you know, this is my
Property,
property.
Yeah.
I live up here because I want isolation.
Or county.
Because I want-
It's real shiny on the
And
surface.
you said the
Oh,
fire.
yeah.
Pretty thin veneer.
It's never gonna be a problem.
Just like every other community.
You're like, okay, but you know, if we
Well, we
had,
are
if we had
different.
approached
We're
that whole
isolated.
thing differently,
Yeah.
I think we could have pulled it off. And
Yeah.
I think
Which also
we
gives us the
approach it differently again.
For our outreach.
You know, and I have found, you know, a lot of times that, you know, there's an attitude.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Like, we're gonna do this. You know,
Well,
like, we're the fire brigade. I'm like,
when I lived in
no,
the-
don't do that.
When I lived in that, I got involved with search and rescue for communication. And all the search and rescue people, we don't know.
No. I said I had one when I was.
Well, the sheriff knew that
When
they had.
I was
He said,
Whatever.
I did. I got
a
my,
couple weeks
got
ago,
my license with
they all out.
five words a minute on Morse.
We're trying to figure out how to.
I'm sorry.
But anyway, they lost communications with their radio because we were going around the mountain.
Basically, what I do now is I spend my time watching political pornography or history on YouTube. We don't have regular TV. Yeah. I gotta admit, I was a poli sci, that was my major in college. But, and I worked a bunch of campaigns. I worked with people on both sides and I get along. Been able to get along with very diverse people.
Clark here.
But I travel a fair amount.
Clark, we're glad to have Clark here. Clark the sheriff.
But yeah,
He's a young one.
my gig at Bothell was
Yeah.
I ran recreation programs, so I was a beggar. I went out and I was always asking for sponsorships, and I've asked Diane for stuff a couple times. No.
I just asked him that.
No.
If you borrow your freezer, I believe you get a license. Anyway, nice meeting you. Eric, I'll get a hold of you one of these days. I got my truck over here this time, so I can come over and get that cable. Okay. The rest of it is roll.
I saw a television show the other night, and I was able to pick out a couple of letters when they were, it was a spy from World War II, and they were there tapping out. I'm like, yeah. Okay, I got
I
that.
don't need that anymore.
Nope, not a requirement anymore.
Say, if you're more than freezer, I believe you're qualified.
I think I was 12 when I got my knowledge.
That's when my daughter got her license when she was 12.
Very thank you.
So I'll see you on Monday. Day after shop.
Anyway, that's not how I die. It has to be catastrophic. I want to be in an airplane crash or a tsunami or. I talked to Joseph about. I know.
Yeah. Thanks, Harry. Got the heat off at least, right? Yep. Okay, awesome. Oh, actually, that is correct. I was wrong. Returning to the way it was supposed to. At least I'm pretty sure. Let me see.